Keegan and Company. It's Keegan and Company, the company you keep. That's it. That's got to be it. Welcome back to the Keegan and Company podcast. Before we kick things off, I do have a small favour to ask. If you could all please like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on. It does mean a lot and does make us grow the podcast, and it would mean a lot to me. So thank you very much. Now, to kick off this podcast, I'm really excited to have this conversation. I've got one of my really good mates in studio, current player for the Brisbane Broncos, state of origin for Queensland, Australia, my man, Paddy Carrigan. How are you, brother?
Good, mate. How you going?
I'm good, brother.
There you go. I'm so proud of you.
You're the best, mate. You're the best. I was trying to do that piece to camera without smiling at you. I was like, as soon as I look at you, I'm just going to giggle.
Bro, I have my head down like, please don't
look at me.
Please don't laugh.
Bro, podcast virginity. We're losing it.
Actually losing it right now.
I thought you would have done 1 million of these.
No, well, like, I've had a few people ask all the time and that, and I'm just like, I don't know, I feel like I'll save it up for the right moment, and then the right moment right
Is this
now,
it?
7:30 Sunday, looking you in the eyes like this.
Late night after the Lions game last night, big couple of days.
Yeah, good to see the Lions get the win. Brizzy's fry them at the moment, bro.
They're fucking so good.
Yeah, it's awesome to see.
Mate, why did you save it for this podcast? Like, why is this the one?
Oh, why is this the one? I don't know, bro. I think, obviously, a few people have kind of hit me up to get on board and do sort of ones, but I always wanted to do one that, like, I actually kind of resonated with at the start, and mate, to see what you're doing and in this space, and I don't know, it just felt like all the stars aligned, and it was like, I don't know, I like it.
Bro,
I'm proud of you, man.
Bro, I fucking love you.
Proud of you.
This is the best. Mate, I'm so happy. Like, obviously, mate sent me prelim on Friday night. Mm-hmm. Good win over the Storm. So, mate, obviously, like, thank you for coming on. Like, I really do appreciate it. I know you're a busy man. There's plenty going on at the moment, but yeah, it's good win Friday night against the Storm. How you feeling? How are the boys?
Good, bro. I was way sore. You always forget. Like, I had 3 weeks off, and then so I tweaked a little thing in my foot, and then you don't play, and then all of a sudden you forget. Like, oh my god, when you wake up the next day and your footy hurts again, you're like, far out. But no, the boys are good. I don't know. It's surreal, bro. It's this is like, you always say it, but you don't train like all November. You start like December, get flogged till March, and then to go out the back door in September and not even get to play finals footy is like the worst thing ever. And before this, my first experience was like 58. You know, we got pumped by Para in 2019. So, mate, loving it, just smiling.
And like, it looks from the outside looking in, it looks like the boys are just like they're just bonding. Like, the boys get it, and it's really cool to see a lot of the guys that we played 20s with, like that core group coming through. Like, I remember when we were at Bronx, when we were in 20s, the older boys, like a lot of them played together, like Maka, Jordy Kahu, Maguire, who else was there? There was like maybe like
the whole crew.
7 of them that like played 20s together.
Yeah. And
now looking at you boys coming through, like you got Jesse, Herbie, yourself, Payne, Keenan, Flegg.
Who else? Mate, most of the team, and then like
Walshy
Brendan,
coming through.
like they were a bit younger, but they all stinged off me as roommates too. But no, like everyone's, it's cool to see. I don't know. Obviously, it's our job, and all you ever wanted to do as a kid was play footy. Yeah, but and like same as this setting, like when you get to hang out and do it with your mates, and like somehow translate to making a living out of it, but just like playing footy, it's like the best thing ever.
Do you reckon that's why you boys are having success now?
Probably in that, but like, I'm sure we'll touch on it, but like some of the tough times that we've had as a group too definitely like bring you back to reality in terms of like, it's just like, I don't know, like when you come in and you're a young guy too and there's all these expectations, and then sometimes you think it's just going to happen, and you're like, oh, we'll have 2 years and then you'll be successul, and then you realize like, fuck, in 2 years we're still where we were 2 years ago kind of thing, and you're like, I didn't see this like happening like this, but it's cool, mate. Like, I just love when you're friends with people first and then you see them win, but then you can win as a group. It's the best feeling ever.
That's the best thing about you. Like, when I think of you, you love your mates, and like you love your mates doing well. Like, even like you look at the Alfreds boys, you look at Johnny Hards, like you look at guys who are like not really obviously in footy. Like, most of our mates are in footy, and when you see them thrive, like it's mad. But even in Australia, like there's kind of like that tall poppy syndrome where the guy's like, nah, like stuff this guy, like he's doing well.
Bro, I hate that about Aussies.
It's the worst.
Like everyone wants to come to Australia and be, I don't know, we're this country that's like have a go, and you always want to be there. How grateful should you be? But like we are the worst at like sitting back and just knocking someone. And I know personally, like, no matter what it is, but, like, you know how hard it is to take that first jump to have a crack at something, or, like, you think, you just forget what people go through, bro, or, like, until you've experienced it yourself, and then just knock people before they even, like, I don't know. It's like, when's it fucking been not cool to try? Like, I don't know. I don't get that.
And also, like, also support your mates.
Yeah.
Like, getting around the boys. Like, even when someone starts something, like, asking for freebies. Like,
yeah, and when people think it's like, I don't know.
Support your mates.
Exactly. Buy it, bro.
Bro, just buy the T-shirt. You know what I mean?
So many mates that do that with beers as well. It's like, skip the round and you're just got to buy beers all the time.
I think I am that guy that I did hit up Ed for a hat, though.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, 100%.
Bro, I'm lucky that Alfred's hats don't even suit me. So everyone froths the OG hats and that, like, you know, the Coast, Brizzy. Those Alfred boys are killing it now. Eddie's done such a good job. But
how did you meet those boys?
I don't even know. Like, actually, I probably do. Like, Sunday hangovers. We'd always come down here. We always talk about this. So when I was living in Brizzy, I'm a Brizzy boy, and then obviously knew you boys. We become pretty close down the coast. But we'd always, if we came down the coast on like a weekend off, we'd like go out. Yeah. But we'd end out in like Coolangatta of like all places. And we're like
the old communes.
Commune. Like, why did we ever do that? I don't know. But then I think a couple Sundays went in and got like the old Alfred Shack. Yeah. The boys used to do some cracker burritos and like they enjoy footy, so we just started having a chat, and then through Jesse and Brimo, we're closer with the boys, and then probably like all good friendships, had a couple of good nights out together and struck it off from there.
Mate, Pullum, just come full circle. We could talk shit all the time, but I know I'm very conscious. Like, I don't want to talk all about footy, but I understand that's your occupation.
Yeah, it's so funny. People like can't see, and they're like, I don't want to talk about footy, but how did Friday night go?
But I feel like, given this setting and given this context, I feel like we have to touch on it like very briefly, because that's what you're most known for. Friday night is that how you thought it was going to happen? Like, obviously you don't go in with preconceived ideas, but are you happy with the way you guys played?
To an extent, I think, bro, the result was unreal, and like, I've never beaten the Storm my whole career. So,
really?
Yeah, and like, those boys know too. Like, I'm really close with like Harry and Money as well. But like,
bro, what happened with Harry?
Bro, Harry just copped it. I texted him already after the game. It feels so bad, but I obviously tried to start the game pretty hard and 100%. Fast, and Harry, someone was grabbing me, and then Mum was pulling me, and I just spun around, seeing red. It was poor Harry, and I pushed Harry, and Harry's a fiery little lad, but I think I like caught him by surprise too, and he was like, anyways, I love you, Harry. But
I thought he was going to pull your hair out.
Yeah, bro, and then I didn't know, but like, everyone's after the game, people messaged me like, can I pull your hair, or like, how do you like your hair pulled and all this stuff? I'm like, what the hell's everyone talking about? And then I've seen the video, and Harry's just like, typical Harry, cheeky little smart ass, just ripping on the back of my bun. But mate, it's I think like I always backed us and wanted to be in that position where like you just play your best footy against anyone. I think like we didn't even play our best footy, and that's like the most exciting thing about this group is like, without talking too much footy, but like I don't know, we just haven't really like put together that perfect game, and like you'd know like that feeling when you do and you win is like better than like how we played. Like, you win, but you're like, far out, we still missed a lot of opportunities. So I don't know. 2 more weeks hopefully, and hopefully we can put together one.
So you'll have a week off this week. What's planned? Will it be, obviously you're not doing any con, like it's just going to be a pretty low week? Like what does it look like?
Mate, I think Kevy will give the keys to Reno, to be honest. Because,
really?
Yeah, so we had our bye like late at the back end of the year, and then we did like an opposed session on the Friday, like you'd usually do on the bye, like a bit of game simulation, and then Ren tweaked his late calf, and then I think that sent some scares through. So I reckon Friday this week will be pretty cruisy, to be honest. Yeah. But it's like those week offs are like, get your body right, back end of the year. People are playing with needles and that sort of thing. So is what it is.
How's your body? You got a little scratch on the side of the face. Ruined the look, mate. Chick stick sky. That's all right.
Trying to make myself look tough. I should have gone out last night. What happened to you?
Should have joined you. Yeah. No, we but like it's a long season, bro. Like, coming in pre-season, like you said, November, December, Jan, coming in at even halfway through the season, like it's actually long. Like, it's long,
bro, it's
right?
nuts.
How are you finding? How's your body? How you feeling?
I'm actually all right, because like it's probably the best I've felt this time of the year. Like, I had a little foot thing, bro, but I just, sometimes the NRL just blows my mind, where they just like don't sometimes understand that, like, not that like, because it's our job, not that like athletes are that are more than just, you know, running out, because I know we're in a very privileged position, but some of the things like, putting in like an extra 3 weeks of competition or, shortening origin camps or like just smashing, like it's literally like your body is I want to say like your body's your workplace, but like you need that to like function. So when it's like some of the gnarly injuries, mate, you see people run out with and like don't even train all week and then they get needled like 3 times or get needled at halftime to play. It's like, it's not gladiator stuff, but it's like...
But it is, bro.
It is, and you're like looking at them and you're like, far out. And then you get into the nitty-gritties of like extra weeks and I don't know. I just feel like sometimes it blows my mind.
Stepping out of footy, I realise how wild it actually is.
Yeah,
like,
it's
Like,
crazy.
mate, being in it, if you took like a random, like an average Joe into the sheds, obviously like what goes on in there, but like from a physical, like a body point of view, like it's not right. Like it's actually not right, but it's just wild what the boys will put their body through in order to play.
And if you don't, that whole premise of like, I'm letting you down.
Yeah.
Sitting there. But it's like, because I'm studying physio, obviously, as you know, it's been so crazy to see or like be in those conversations with other people and they're talking about like, oh, we'll do stuff on injuries and it'll be like, oh, we did. Like, I've had about 2 years off, so probably forgotten everything now. But it's like, oh, this injury, like 2 to 4 weeks. And you're like, 2 to 4 weeks? Like, I'm walking around with that now, playing every week. So you just get like a new appreciation for people in all sports.
It's like you're doing your own live degree just by playing. Like I remember at Titans, like Ryan James, Starkey, and a few of the boys, like they were obviously gone through a bunch of injuries throughout their career, and they're like, "Fuck, I've already got a physio degree. Like I already know how to rehab everything," which is nice to have afterwards. But
it's crazy to think, and like for me, that's been the coolest thing about playing sport is like, it's probably stolen, but so many of the things that I've done personally, or like with physios, or watch the boys do, and then like you'll get that sort of thing for an assignment or something, and you'll be like, I know this, like,
really.
Answer, and you're like, I literally just watched someone do that like this morning. But
what do you reckon's been your biggest injury that you've played through or with?
Played with or through?
Yeah.
Oh mate, the back end of the World Cup last year in the semi, I like Rendon Nelson. It's another dumb thing, no Rendon Nelson, but
big boy, bro.
Yeah, massive boy for people who don't know. But yeah, I like fractured a bit of my collarbone, and then we were in like Manchester, and I was like in the dumps for that whole week. Thought my arm was gonna fall off, bro. But they thought it was just like an AC joint, but they hurt. AC's hurt too.
AC's the worst
underrated injury ever because like
100%.
You really like everyone gets them, but like they're like not that bad. Like there's not that much wrong with you, so you just got to cop it. But yeah, I had a fracture in my collarbone, and then didn't know until I got back. So did that. Wanted to play the final. Like arm was hanging off. Like obviously it was at Old Trafford, so I was frothing that. So played the final. Went around Europe for 4 weeks. Not the best recovery. And then got back and my arm was still hanging off, bro. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Went to get a scan and it was still like a little fracture on the end. I was like, it's like that as a footy player, mate, there's that moment of relief, like, where it's like something's wrong, where you're like, yes. Like, I wasn't carrying on this whole time. And all the boys just watching you like, what are you doing?
Like, when you play a game and you get injured and you come off and you don't finish the game and you go on for scans and you're like, if there's nothing on this scan, then I'm in so much trouble. Like, just the guilt.
I still remember, like, there was a younger guy at the club who, like, we genuinely thought he had a really bad, like, lower leg injury. He got, like, carried, helped off the field. And he put up a photo. I don't know how he'd never had a cork, bro, but he put up a photo, like, that night, like, thanks for all the messages, like, I'm in God's hands now. And bro, he came to train the next day and it was a cork, like the worst thing ever. And like corks hurt too, but it was just like that he like never lived that down. He'll never live that down. I've got that over him for good. Like so many people would talk about that.
Mate, that happens all the time. I remember I did my AC joint in one of the games and then came off, and then we ran out of players because everyone got injured, so I had to go back on.
Yeah.
And like was hailed this like hero for coming back on. Like, he's done his AC. He hurt his shoulder. And then that afterwards I was like, I had to get a scan. I was like, imagine if there's nothing on this scan.
It's like so much anxiety.
It's all through the papers. They're going to be like, oh, this guy's just like, he's hailed a hero. And then I was so scared. I was almost like, fuck, do I just like try and bang someone in training?
Actually.
But it actually was an AC, but it fucking hurts so much.
Bro, they're the worst, I think. But then, like, you get it, like, I don't know, being in those environments, like, I've never, like, dislocated a shoulder or something, but I remember, like, pain, like, in our, like, first years, like, 2018 or something, like, popped his shoulder out and, like, made a tackle or something, and it reminds me of, like, no. You're like, what your brain can do for you, but I'm like, no, thank you, like,
I think there's definitely something in that, like having played like week after week, like being in such like physical pain, like especially the way you play, especially the way a lot of like the boys play, like in at the Bronx, like boys go hard, right? And so you just saw every week, and then I think that's got to breed like some sort of toughness that people don't in the real world, like probably wouldn't understand, right?
Do you reckon you would have ever felt that like sort of pain after finishing? Well, like, you know, like the worst thing is like trying to explain to people, like you get the day one soreness and then like your day two, like I'm always sore at day two. So it's like things get worse and then they get better.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I feel, it definitely like, I don't know, it definitely plateaus. But when you get to the point where you can't train all week and then you try and do a walkthrough on captain's run and then you try and play.
No,
like
that's gnarly. I don't know how people do that.
Mate, what's changed in the last couple of years with Bronx? Because obviously like you've had a pretty core group of boys that have come through 20s. Wooden spoon a couple of years ago. I remember when I think they threw all the wooden spoons on the Bronx Oval, and Middo had to pick them all up.
Middo, and like for people that know, Middo is the man. Like he's been there
best,
from like I was like heartbroken for him. I seen that footage again the other day, and I was watching it like, but I don't know.
But yeah, what's changed? Because obviously, like you guys are like without jumping the gun too early. Like you guys are in a pretty good space at the moment. Like boys are playing good footy. You look connected off the field. What do you reckon's changed?
I think like some of it we've just like grown up, and I know like when I was younger, mate, and like I was definitely one of these people that you like want it now, and like you come into first grade and you think that like, well, you want to be successful or you can be, but just like making everything happen as a group is like hard sometimes, and like we've always had that, or I felt like that connection and that mateship, and like we just had good people about the club that just get on. But like sometimes I think, or when we're young, like you just can't shortcut the phase of like learning, and you don't really understand that until like I get to the point now, like you're like 24, 25, and you're like you see it unfold, and then we get someone like Adam Reynolds comes, and like you see how he goes about things, or like just little things that he understands the game, and you're like, that's just literally time, or like hanging around with people in any setting that are just better than you or experience things that you just haven't experienced. And I think for us, that was the biggest thing. Like we literally had to ride these waves in a way to like not appreciate each other more, but like understand it to then come out and enjoy it, and then just play a brand of footy that you don't really care what anyone thinks.
Do you reckon the hard times make you appreciate the good times even more?
Easily, bro. I'm like the biggest, not advocate, but supporter of that, because I just think all through, like I was never the guy that like got picked, like I was with junior teams and that, but never got picked like the first guy who gets picked for Queensland and all that thing, or all those things. And I just think for people, the little hardships that you have if you really want to make it, and it's so funny when you like think back to think your parents and that at the time, you're like, shut up, old man.
Yeah. What do you know, mate?
Dad's a chippy, and he'd be like, mate, if you want it, get up, like play the next day, get up and go work for it. And I do think like for me and my career today, or anything that I try and do going forward, is just like those little setbacks are literally the things that drive you and inspire you to like be better. And while sometimes you don't want them, like if you don't have them, like I don't know where you'll end up.
What have you learnt from Reno? What's been the biggest thing you've learnt from Reno since coming in?
I reckon my biggest growth from him, to be honest, mate, it's been like just being yourself. Like he's a larrikin, like knockabout bloke, like and can just like get on with everyone, covered in tats, so people would have this perception of him like he's a bikie, but then he's like out, loves his golf, so he's always at the golf course, and then like just everything, like. And I think for me, and it was like probably the biggest growth like off the field that I had in the last couple of years that like helped me so much on the field, is like you're always in the spotlight, so if you're gonna do things, like you got to do it your way, kind of thing. And mate, he definitely does things his way, which like I just like appreciated. And then obviously he's a freak of a footy player, and you add all that outside stuff in. But I don't know, like the best thing, I did a bit of work with a guy called like Ben Crow, super cool dude.
Oh, did you really,
yeah,
mate? Mojo Crow.
Yeah,
that's
Crow's
so cool.
Yeah, like last year, and but it always stuck with me from now on. Is like footy's like for us, like footy's what you do. It's not who you are. And mate, that was like I just see. Reno wouldn't even realise, but I just see that in him about how he goes about everything, and I don't know. That's what I think.
Did you reckon you're like just on Benny? was your identity like wrapped up in being a footy player at all?
Yeah, easily.
Yeah.
I think because like I infatuated, like I just wanted to play NRL. Like I was never like I don't think of things like, it sounds weird, but like everyone talks about say like contracts and that we earn, but like I've never thought like I would probably play for free. Like you just love it. Like that's who I am. But I think when I'm an all-in sort of person. So when you're an all-in sort of person, like it just consumes you, and then you chuck in like injuries or a bit of poor form or a shit show like 2020, and it just like takes over, and then all of a sudden your everyday life is like influenced by a result on a Friday night. Friday night you lose, you're like, fuck.
Down for the weekend.
Bro, down for the weekend, don't want to show your face, and it's like, get up, go train like Monday, Tuesday, and then like sometimes you train harder, like everyone in the whole organisation like gives their best effort. You go again on the next Friday, and then you lose, and it's just like down again, and it's just like back to back to back, and you don't know how to. It's like a cyclone that you don't know how to get out.
And you're trying everything. People think you're not trying, and you're you're putting in more inputs.
Do these blokes even like train? And you're like, mate, like
you don't even know.
I wish you knew. I'm not even running con on a Wednesday because they think we're not fit enough. It's like I just can't catch a ball.
What
I literally just dropping the ball. So.
What stuff, like what practical stuff did you do with Ben? Like, how did you? I'm guessing you flipped the mind switch from not putting your whole identity in footy. Like you lose a game on a Friday night, I'm guessing obviously it still sucks. You're a competitive person. What stuff did you do with Benny?
Well, like I was kind of saying before, like I'm like a really like all in sort of person. So a lot of our stuff, he just kind of like encourages you to like embrace your own story, but like understand that like you as a person's like separate to, and like so much of this stuff, like sometimes when you tell people like makes sense to you, and then you say to other people like, yeah, and you're like, nah, mate, honestly, just go listen to Ben Crow. It's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
But I just think like embracing like your story or who you are, and just like not thinking you have to change that, and like separating the footy from, or for me the footy, but like whatever you do from like who you are as a person, and it's just like all that stuff where like it dictates your everyday life. Like it doesn't have to be that way, and like I said, being like an all-in person, like I want to like give as much to the game, or like have a red hot go while I'm in it, and like sometimes being like that like flips over into the other side of your life, and you like think you're not doing enough. Like that was a big thing for me. Like if I was sitting here, I used to be like that guy that would be like far out, like I don't know, someone like Nath Cleary, like he'll probably at the gym right now, or he's probably doing this, and it just like eats into your head. And he kind of like worked with me about stuff, just like being comfortable that like you've got a goal and you have to work hard and like go for it. But at the end of the day, like if you're content with like what you've put into it, then you got to like leave that there, and that doesn't interact this side.
Mate, that's so, bro. You're so wise in your old age now.
Right,
You're getting so wise.
I'm literally just like on repeat. Crowy, what do you say?
I got to have this stuff memorized.
Everything.
But it's cool, Matt. It's so cool to see, because obviously, like I've seen a big shift in you in the last couple of years. Like probably after the last couple of years you've had. How did you going into the NRL? Because I remember when we were at Bronx, and I did my first preseason, I was so scared. Like I didn't say a word. I didn't feel like I was myself. Like, and then I'd come back with you, boy. I come back with the Bronx boys, like the under 20s, and then we'd go back to my place and we'd have piss ups, and I feel like I could be myself.
Yeah, bro.
But then when I'd go to grade, I feel like I didn't say a word for the first year. I don't think.
Oh, mate, I reckon the same. And even the way it was like easy for me, because like you boys are like trailblazed a little bit, because I feel like everyone, like we're saying before, everyone like comes through in crews. So there's like the older guys, and then like the middle, and then there's like I don't know. There's always a little gap, and then it goes again, and it goes again. And you guys had even like trailblazed the first year for me, but I hate saying it because like I'm sure like people would deal with like genuine anxiety things, but it's like going to training, bro. Yeah. Like that's all you ever want to do. Like you've got the contract, then you want to try and make it work, and then you're just like going in there, and you just like. You like almost feel sick. You're like walking around on eggshells, like, and it's not necessarily like sometimes it is, but like the culture or things that older boys create, it's just like I don't know what we do to ourselves, but it's just like every moment you feel like you're getting judged. I remember that was me. Like Wayne was our first year, and I just felt like, bro, if I ate too much, like we get like fed at lunch, like if I ate too much rice and not enough chicken, he was watching me like. This guy
breaking it down to the
meal. Like he doesn't want it, like stuff like that. Or like you're like, what are you up to? Like you going home now? You're like, yeah, we're finished training. He's like, oh, It would just say, and like, it wouldn't even be anything. He'd mainly be trying to have a conversation with you just to like, I don't know, try and get to know you, and then probably call you the wrong name in like 2 minutes anyway. But
I always wonder if he did that on purpose.
sometimes that's what I think too, but I would always be like, oh, yep, he's judging me. Do I turn around and walk back and try and do something in the gym, or do I walk out? Like that like is a feeling that you live with in your first couple of years, mate. So I don't know. I don't know when it just like leaves you, but my first few years was like definitely that. And then even the way I played was just like, because you play with, like, the gnarliest thing about it, and I love it, is like you play with some of your like childhood heroes. Like when you run out, like for me, well, I like the Broncos, so like there was like Darius Boyds and Sammy Thaidays and those Matt Gillettes that like were doing it when you were like 10 kicking a footy.
Yeah.
And then they're the older guys and you're like running around with them, and like the worst thing, like even Milf, like best dude ever, but you just like, I was just in this bubble where it was like every time I even played, it was just like don't make a mistake, don't make a mistake. Like,
and you limit like how you play. Like you're obviously like doing a lot more ball play now, a lot more offloading. Fuck, you're probably not doing that. You're probably just like, I'm gonna take the kid up. I'll get a quick play of the ball and run off the back of it.
And I'd 100%, like if I had to watch me play X amount of years ago, I would have been like, I never would have seen this. Like, and I've had to work on things too, but it's just like the whole mental shift of like just being like, it's okay to make mistakes, or it's okay to like do things, and like the way you played at like 18 is kind of like what got you here. Like, don't forget what got you here, right? That mindset just out the back door, and you're just like, catch the ball, run, hold it, play the ball. Catch the ball, run, play the ball. That's all you do, bro. That's all. I swear to God, that was like easily my first year, nearly 2 years of first grade.
Really?
Yeah.
And you just do you reckon just because you get more comfortable being around the boys, that you start playing a bit more free style of footy?
I reckon definitely like you feel like there's like, in rugby league anyway, I reckon there's like a culture of like you got to earn your straps. So, which I do like, because it's like, well, everyone had to earn it to get here. So it's like kind of makes you who you are too. But easily, like once you feel like you're a part of it and you're one of the boys, and like it's like someone just gives you a warm hug and you're like, it's okay, and you're like, just drop the backpack, let's go.
Yeah, just give me some love. Mate, this is obviously a mental health and sport podcast. Like we've touched on a bit of footy, but at the end of the day, like the whole reason this podcast was created is because we want to break down the barriers and stigmas of mental health, and we want to have conversations with guys like yourself who I guess are half influential in the community. And like all my role models growing up were athletes. Like my role models were guys like Corey Parker and Matt Gillette and Paul Harrigan and sporting stars. So I always think like whatever they would be doing, that's the stuff that I want to be doing, right? Yeah. Like the conversations that they're having, that's the stuff that I want to be doing. So I felt like with this, it's like, well, if these guys can be having conversations about their own struggles or examples of resilience, or be vulnerable about their own vulnerabilities, then it makes it okay for us to have these conversations. So, mate, has there been a time over the cast, like probably, I guess the question is, what's been like a really challenging time for you? And it can be with football, it can be off football. Has there been a time that stands out that you're comfortable with talking about?
Well, for me, it was like a bit of like a longer stretch, but it's weird when I don't know, when I always talk about these things, it's like my big thing is like always perspective on things. And then some of the stories you hear and you're like, oh mate, like I've got it like easy. But my stuff was probably like, it was like a band of like 12 months where obviously 2020 happened, and like when you're a younger guy and riding the waves, and was like captain of the club for the back end. And then like in Brisbane, when you get your like the wooden spoon, it's like the worst thing ever. The club's never had one. Like it's built on success. So it was kind of like a roller coaster of like, we finished that year, like was gutted, and then you go into that stage like being really motivated. And I remember being like all right, next year, like I'm gonna prove everyone wrong. Like we're gonna, like, well, personally, like, train your ass off, and like I remember what everyone said. Like next year, like I'm gonna make you proud. And then that next year in 2021, that's when I first did. That's when I did my ACL. Yeah. And I remember like as a athlete, like you don't even have to know anything about any sport, but like when someone says like ACL to you,
it's big.
Yeah, it's massive. Like you just think like, oh, I'm in a bit of trouble here. So it was like 7 games into the year, had a couple good first games, and then got like suspended for 2. Had like a shocker. I think it was like round 7 against Cows in Townsville. Did my ACL there. Would have scored my first try, bro.
Disallowed?
Yeah, disallowed. Disallowed a forward pass. So that flipped the script. 30 games later was still there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and then that whole like rehab journey of just like the ebbs and flows and how slow it is, and then like that was COVID. So
What was your mindset when you first did your ACL? Was it like, nah, rehab straight back into it, or was there ever a feeling of like, man, this actually sucks, like this isn't fair?
like at the start, like mine was so innocuous. I don't want to feel like I got robbed of like the big experience, but I was like running, got caught up in a tackle. Yeah, like Frankie Molo just like fell on my leg. Like it would happen just to anyone, like fell down on my leg, and then I still remember it. And someone told me this, and like it's the most perfect way, but mine literally felt like if you like cracked a stick of celery, like that sound of like, I don't know, that definitely doesn't sound like it, but like if you cracked it,
you're pretty close, bro.
Yeah, like if you cracked it, like it was just that pop, and like not knowing what it was, but my like leg went numb, and I was like hobbling around a bit, try to keep playing. Then I like started to run it out. And the physio's like, Lukey, funniest guy ever. He's like the man, but he's just like such a 180 straighty as well. And he's like running out, trying to get to me, has a quick suss on my knee, and like being a like physio student, like I know like the ones he's doing, and like he goes to the ACL, and you just get that feeling of like he does like mine's my left leg, so he does like left first, and they compare to your right, like does the right, and then you see them like, you know, you see people like looking, and they're like, go back to the left, gives it a tug.
He's sticking it through.
He's like, yeah, like that's definitely more like they call it laxity, like looser than that. And I just remember him looking at me, he goes like, taps my leg, and he's like, mate, I think you need to come off. And I'm like, why? He's like, I think you've done your ACL. And I remember just like in that moment, like we have a pretty funny relationship. It's good now, but I like in that moment I told him, he's like, you're coming off, and I'm like, nah. And he's like, oh, yeah, I need to get you off like to check it. And I told him to, we can edit it, but I was like, eat a dick, Frank.
Can we bleep that?
Yeah, I was like, Frank, eat a dick. And I ran off, and he said he was like the funniest, like, but most rattled he's been on the field. He was like looking, he like ran to the sideline. He's like trying to get someone, like, he just, what happened? He just told me to eat a dick. Like, we need to get him off. Like, it's the funniest thing now, bro. And he reckons he does chats at unis and that, and they're like asking him about funny experiences, and like he doesn't say those words, so he's like, you're just gonna have to learn to like embrace things in the moment and not take it for what it is. But
imagine if you're a physio student, like these are the practices where you have to navigate with like dealing with athletes and where they don't want to come off the footy field.
Yeah,
that's a perfect example.
Perfect. And especially when like I started to feel right, so like I felt like, no, it can't be that. Like probably denial was like my first thing. Like, no, it can't be that. Eventually came off, and then like you get assessed by the other doctors in the sheds, and then like he basically says like, yeah, I think you're like brown bread now. So yeah, I just remember like the whole shock thing at the start, and then that was like the COVID bubble that they brought everything up to the coast. So
you obviously came up.
Well, yeah. So because we were living in Brisbane playing for the Broncos, like we were at home, but it was nearly worse, bro. So not worse than everyone's COVID experiences, but for like the athlete NRL bubble, because so the guys from like Sydney and Melbourne, or like you guys, you came up and like stayed in like a hub that they made at like Sunny Coast, or so it was like 4 or 5 teams, and not that it was like a holiday, but it was like a bit better. Whereas they like restricted us to like home or training, and it would be like, oh, at least you're in your home, but it was like literally like you didn't leave for like groceries and that.
Yeah.
And then for me, like being like injured in that period, and then I had to go into the bubble, and it was like the last thing I wanted to do. Like, like I did not want to do it at all. But our physio, and I'm like super lucky, like 2 awesome mates, like 2 Irish dudes, Ryland and Crawford, physio and like strength coach. They were like the guys that I wanted to like do my rehab with me. So I was like motivated in that sense, but it was like they were going in the bubble because they got to like support the boys. So I had to go in there, and that was like the worst thing ever, because I remember just as like you get in there at like 6 a.m. and you got to train before the boys. So you train 6 to 9, and then I'm not a good watcher, bro. So like Kev might ask me to like watch training, try and help some people here and there, and that was like something I definitely didn't want to do.
Because you want to be there?
Yeah, like you want to be in it. And then so I was hated like that whole bubble, but like could kind of like lock in for my rehab. And I got to talk to Darbs about some of that stuff, and then him just telling me like just try and take it as an opportunity to like just get better every day. And people are going to think once you've done an ACL, he did an Achilles, like you're done. And for me, like I didn't want to like being like 22, you're like when like what the hell,
coming
like,
into your peak time of career, right?
I'm supposed to be playing, like you're seeing your mates playing, like whether it be like Origin or something, and like things you want to do, and all you're doing is thinking about like I can't even get back on the field, or like if I get back and I'm like shit, like in the brutal honesty of it, like what do I do? Like, where do I go? Like, where's all the hard work? So like,
You're having these thoughts.
yeah, you're having all those thoughts, and
Yeah.
chuck the bubble in it, and I was just off it proper, and then you start to get back, and then like you just try and find like little things of enjoyment, but at the same time, my nan got like diagnosed with bowel cancer, and she was living like with my mum and dad.
I didn't know that.
And yeah, bro, and she was living with mum and dad, and then I remember like at the start, it was like my thing then was like, all right, I'm gonna get back on the field, like for her to play, watch me play, and she wasn't even like the biggest like footy fan, but like if like you know your grandkids play, she like watch it and like start to pick up little things, so it was like cool in that essence, but yeah, like things got worse for her, and I couldn't get back before obviously the end of the year, so I came back in 22, but I remember the whole time all I was thinking was like wanted to do that, and then she ended up passing away at the end of the year, so it's like that whole other thing of like then you feel like fuck, like couldn't get back early enough for that, and it's just like the thing I learnt best from it was like things are like never always as bad as it, or like bad times suck and like good times are good, but they're like never as bad or never as good as they seem, or like they just like happen, like compound, bang, 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 and you just gotta learn to like deal with it. Or it'll be like good, but like without knowing, like it's not gonna last forever.
When you're in like that moment, like the hardest thing you've gone through is the hardest thing you've gone through, and it's also the same for those good times. Like the good times are so euphoric, but then you like zoom out and you take a look back, and it's like, well, actually, I could get through that, or actually, you know what, that was actually a really cool thing. But it gives you like a little bit more perspective, like taking a step back.
Yeah,
man, I couldn't imagine. Like that's obviously such a wild time. Like you're obviously really close with your family. How did that make you feel?
It's like weird because it feels like, in a way, like the enjoyment that your family get from watching you like play or live out your dream, or your mum and dad, or like I got 2 sisters, so you feel like not that their enjoyment hinges on it, but you see like even better, the best thing I love is like if you play a good game or something like that, like it feels good for you, but like you see how happy it makes your friends and family, bro, and like just the feeling, even like the everyday fan in Brizzy, like we got some die-hard fans,
Bro,
like
they're
just
mad,
fucking crazy, bro, and it's hectic because like they'll come on like a Monday or Tuesday, and they're like, someone's worked night shift, bro. They just rip into training. Like there's some legends there, and they like, come in, like grab a coffee, let's have a yarn, like watch a bit of training. And you see him rip off and go to his other job, and it's just like to see like that makes their day. So like, I think like the sort of person I am, like that's what like fuels me. Is kind of I just want to like other people smile. So like when I felt like my way of doing that got like pulled away through footy, you just feel like what do you do? Like you just float. Like that was my thing, and yeah, I don't know. But then like in the other foot, like that getting too gnarly. Like when I had 2 younger sisters, bro, and like you see them like helping out around with like your grandparents or like someone who's sick, and like carrying that load for your family, and it just like triggers you back. Like I'm okay here, or like when you hear story, like just perspective was like the biggest thing for me, and like still the biggest thing I reckon. It gets thrown around a lot, but yeah, just what some people go through, bro, is just like the craziest thing that you can ever imagine, and to see people like power through it, it's just like so good to see.
People talk about like having values, like having your like values or things that you live by. When I look at you, like obviously you love your mates, but you genuinely love seeing people succeed, and you always want to help people. Is that fair to say that that's like probably at the core of what you do?
I think so. I think I'm like, I think like the helper is definitely like the thing that like, I don't know what the word is. So like strokes your fire, but that doesn't sound
strokes your fire.
Sounds
like bro, you're so
like
wise now.
Strokes your fire. I don't know, like it gives you that thing. Like,
I know, man.
Just like
lights your fire.
Just lights you up, bro. Yeah. I don't know, like for me, I don't know. And it sounds weird to say because like when you say that when I say that out loud, like I like helping people. It's just like okay, like but just like I just enjoy, I don't know, being able to like just give, not give back. I even hate that phrase, but just like.
But it gives you energy. It gives you energy.
I enjoy it, like to see in whatever way it may be, or just like help someone like with a little thing, or like you just never know what people are going through, and I just think like to be able to take a bit of pressure off someone is just like the coolest thing without even doing anything ever. Like it's just you being you. You don't need to go. I don't know. You don't need to go buy something to go like help this person out. Like it's just you're literally just helping them in a way that like makes you feel good and helps them. And I don't know. That's the coolest feeling ever.
Bro, you're definitely like one of the nicest guys in rugby league, eh?
Easily not.
You're definitely like one of the most.
The boys would like watch this or hear. They're always like,
this guy's
just
fraud.
a chameleon. Yeah, he's a fraud. He's a chameleon.
But no, they're obviously just doing it to take the piss. But I remember like when we did a Whatability Day at Bronx, you're there early. You're there training early. Like you were the first one there. You had a big training session. We had a bunch of participants there for the day. But then you were the last person leaving, like bringing all the stuff into the sheds, and those are little things that people don't see. So, mate, I'm frothing. I love where your head's at, mate. Transitioning after your ACL, you came back and had a pretty wild season, right? Like you signed for another 4 to 5 years. You got to play. You know, you get to make your debut for Queensland. You won the Wally Lewis medal, which is Player of the Series. Got to play for Australia. Like, bro, what was that like?
It was hectic.
That's a wild year.
Yeah, whirlwind. It's like when you have the dreams as a kid and like you want to be there, and you like that was just a dream year. That I don't know. I just go straight back to being grateful for all the people that like put the time into me with my ACL, and because like I was able to come back from like the next year. What is it? What are we? 23. So 22, and just be like, and like feel comfortable and like comfortable in who I was and like what I'd worked on, whether that be like the other stuff with like Crowy and that off the field, or like even like on the field with how like you've kind of like developed your game, and like to be able to just do that and then just play, bro. Like my biggest thing was just shedding the whole load of like at the end of the day, like I just play a game. Like I'm playing a game. This isn't like it's real life, but it's not like real life. All chips are on the table. Like I'm just playing a game, and like did I love playing that game? Yeah. So this was like how Crowy kind of like summed it up to me. So he's like, just go play. Like you can't shortcut the hard work, obviously, and like you've done it, but just go play the games. And that was like the best thing for me because we were winning, so that helps too. To be honest, bro. That's what Alfie always talks about. He's like, like if anyone ever says like work on something, Alfie will be like, just win. Everything's shit when you're losing, and all those guys did win. But yeah, just like winning and experiencing that feeling, and then like that was like one of those years where like literally just came in waves, and like everything kept getting better and better and better, and except for how we got knocked out for the finals. But yeah, just like, and then to be able to go away with like the World Cup or the Origin, like just those little moments of like debuting for Queensland in Sydney. There's like 90,000 people and they're just spraying you. It's like you just like I always just smile. It's like I just can't not smile. Like it's like the awkward dude. That's
what was your favorite Origin memory out of those 3 games? Was there a standout? Can be on or off the field.
Oh, bro, so many off the field.
That's
like,
what I mean.
The best dudes ever.
Yeah.
Like, just like embrace you straight away. And then, I don't know, like that was a crazy, surreal experience for me as well because as a kid, like you watched, like I'm a Queensland obviously, so the crazy Queensland team that just like was really dominant, and like you've got probably like 6 possible immortals, like Friday, like they're just freaks. And then I went into an environment where I was that kid, and then I was playing with like guys I looked up to, like Benny Hunt, like Big Papa, Joshie Papali was like a favourite of mine too, and I'm like running out next to him. But then like Cam Smith and Jonathan Thurston and those sort of guys, Billy, like they're in your coaching staff, and it's just like, what am I doing here? Like just things you couldn't even dream to like if you had to write a movie, like I didn't even know if I could put that in there as a movie. So I was like frothing that, and then like the coolest thing for me too was like guys like Harry Grant, like me and H, like played like from like 18s Queensland and stuff like that together, and he'd obviously debuted already, but he got picked, and like same with Ruben Cotter and these guys, and like we're gonna like do it together as like mates first, and then on like the big stage, like in things that they like would have dreamt of as kids from like Rocky and stuff, and it was just like just felt like that adds so much. And then you finish the game, and then you see like all your family and friends, and they're like, my mum's a blue, bro. My mum's from New South Wales, and
she wearing Queensland?
Bro, she had a Queensland scarf on, and she's like, I remember she always said to me as a kid, I'll only do it if you ever make Origin. Yeah. She's like, and she's a crier, bro, worst cry ever. It's like sobbing, like crying, Queensland scarf on, and like my little sister just leans over and just like snaps a photo. So I got this like grouse photo on my phone of just like mum crying in like a in a Queensland scarf. It just always makes me smile about those little things where you're like, far out, how good is this?
It's so cool. Like that's what I love. Like I look back at the photo of our under 18s, even under 20s Origin side, and it's yourself, like even Brimo's there, Ruben Cotter, Lindsay Collins was in one of them, and like Harry Grant, like, and I was like, it's so cool to see the boys that we come through with, kick on and actually play it out. Like it gives me so much energy. I'm so bloody pumped for you boys because it's so cool, bro.
It's so good. I just and then to like, I don't know, and then just that feeling of like, if you get to do it again, like you don't want to let it, like you won't let anyone down, but you just want that feeling. Like it was the best moment probably was like game 3. Benny Hunt catches that like kick, intercept, whatever, takes off, and I've like never heard of like when people say deafening, like Suncorp went off, bro. Like it was nuts, and my backside was hanging out, so I'm like, I didn't even run down. It's like look up, like I didn't realize there's like Eagle cam footage, just like where they look, bro. There's like me and Tino just like look at each other and we just like hug each other. Bro, it was so
just
good.
Giving each other some love.
We're just like walking down. I was so wrecked that game, but yeah, just to like see that and like and experience that, like that was his moment for Benny. But like, fuck, that was gnarly.
Going into the World Cup, what was that tour like? Because that's obviously a big couple of weeks, right?
Right.
That would be next level.
Yeah, you hear the stories and that. I'll like save the real good ones for I reckon when I finish like playing and stuff, because like I don't want to incriminate everyone.
After this podcast,
yeah,
that's over a beer conversation.
Yeah, bro, proper. But mate, I just like, it's cool to be able to like, I'm a pretty kickback sort of fella, so like get on with most guys, and like there's always like when you go, how funny is that first day in camp in like whatever camp you're in, and you've played against someone from like, if it's Bronx versus Cowboys or Reuben or something, like you go and you have like the awkward like first handshake, or like people say it doesn't exist, but it does. Like you go into Aussies, and I know you got some like Queensland, New South Wales, so it's like how are they going to come together? Or you got like, I've played against like Penrith before, and they just fucking give us a hiding all the time, bro. So go in there and like you meet Nathan, Marto, and those sort of guys, and you're like, I don't know what these guys are going to be like.
Yeah,
but, mate, the best time ever. Like being in another country, like that was my first time really being overseas. Like so, I was like I'm in Manchester for 7 weeks. Like some of the best lads I've ever met. Like freaking drank way too much. Like, but just the enjoyment of like the whole camaraderie of things, bro, and like. To think that like I was getting to play footy and like do what you love, and then you just got this whole thing on the side with you, was just like, it's just hectic. Like I don't know.
And you guys won it.
Yeah, bro, we won it. That was sick too at Old Trafford. Obviously, we played Samoa in the final. Those boys like made some serious waves with like what they were doing off the field, but yeah, we won it, and bro, I actually played shocking in the final anyway, so I just got carried to a little World Cup medal. But bro, it's so funny because like one of like our good mates, and like one of my best mates still was like Jaden Swart, and he was playing for Samoa, bro, and like I'll never live it down ever. Like one of these runs I went to take, I like took off, and like I get like a pass here, and I like catch it there, and I'm like dropping it in front of me, bro, and it's like here, and I'm like looking straight at him, and I just drop it, and like ever since like, bro, he's gonna run with it, he's like, hi, like the whole, I had a look at you, looked at me, got scared, and bro, I think Mel might have like hooked me after that, or I had like 5 more minutes, like basically played like 20 minutes, like not much, but it was awesome. But yeah, just like the other side of the footy with the mates still.
So as a kid,
yeah, bro, he's the worst kid.
He's the toughest, like biggest hitter in the game, but just such a little
biggest,
kid
like
off the field.
Just a marshmallow, and his body looks like a marshmallow too. He's just like, bro, but I'll always remember that. It's so, and I got to swap jerseys with him, which was like hectic, just being cool. Like 2 kids that we like dreamt of playing for Bronx together, and then to swap like World Cup jerseys. But the funniest thing is that everyone always, what do you remember from that game? Well, fuck, all I remember is like dropping the ball, bro, and looking at Sua, and Sua's like, bro, he smiled at me. He's like smiling in the game, like, yes, like I'm gonna throw this at you after the game. But I don't know, they're the things.
Right, that's so cool. Mate, last question. Mate, who's been one of the biggest inspirations that has, I guess, sort of shaped your career? Like whether that being a player that you played with, family member, coach, has it been a standout person that's helped you, or even a couple people that have helped you?
We like we started talking about this in Origin this year about like who was your like favorite person that gave you inspiration and that, and I'd still say like mine is like my parents, like my dad too, like specifically, but my mum as well. Like I can't like cross the bridge. People be like, if you're a young guy or young girl and like you're a kid, like you idolize your parents, but then you grow up and then like, I know you realize that not everyone's perfect, and then you might see like, well, like LeBron James, or I don't know, someone else closer to you. You meet someone that just like comes into your life and they just like change things like that. And But mine for me will like always, I think, just be like my mum and dad, just to see like what they did for us as kids, and like, or like what parents do for kids. And like my dad's a chippy, like worked big hours, and my mum's was a midwife or a nurse, so like different like rosters and that sort of thing. And like the way like we were pretty fortunate, like kids like never grew up without anything we didn't want, and the time that they put into us, and like the little lessons that, I don't know, like I think I started to work out like your dad's like pretty like smart old fellow, and like everyone else is like going to him for advice, and you're like that sort of thing, which I thought was always so cool. And
is he that type of person that people will go to him for advice?
Yeah, like they like most of the time will like kind of, I think because like he's like a straight shooter, hard taskmaster, and like says things how it is, but then can also like, you know, kind of give you like a cuddle if you need.
Bro, that's you.
A little bit, but like it's different. Like it's so funny. Yeah, I don't know like what, like me and dad, it's like the funniest like little, he's like tough, like he's like from the bush, grew up in the bush, like lost his like his dad when he was young, like grew up single mum, and then like heaps of family, so like that sort of story. And yeah, I don't know, just like one of those hardened old dudes that's just like.
But those are a lot of the traits that I see in you. Like you're obviously hardworking. You'll obviously tell the boys how it is, but like off the field, like you're always giving the boys hugs. Like you're always giving them love. Like we'll have a glass of wine at Tropic on a bloody Saturday night. Like,
bro, I'm way more like on the affectionate side than my old man. It's just like me and dad. It's crack up. We still have like, you know, when you like my dad and I's relationships, like. I don't know if we've ever said, people like I've said this to like old partners or like friends, and like when you're talking about it, like I don't know if we've ever said like, you know, like the phrase like I love you to each other, but it's just like we always, it's just like the love you, like, and it's like the hugs and that, which is like people makes me feel weird sometimes. So I'm like, that's just us. But like I remember like one of my old friends she'd always want me to like message and just message your dad and say like I love you. I don't know, like that, which is sick because I love like people who can do it. I'm like, if I do that, my dad will friggin' flip out. Like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? Like, and that was just like, that's just our kind of relationship. But I just think, that the values that my parents put into me, and like giving me like some of the little things, like perspective on things, like just my dad, just mum as well, but just, build on hard work, but just like these classic, you know, one-liners that come out forever. And I think like one of the best things was just like, I remember all those like times, like if you're training or like you got to get up for school, just like little things, like you see your dad getting up at like 4 o'clock and he's like, sometimes you don't want to go to work, but you got to get up and go to work. Like it's just, that's life. And like that's kind of the thing that's just stuck with me forever. Like I'm gonna have to do things that I don't want to do sometimes, but you just like got to do it. And I don't know, that him being like the harder lad, and then my mum's a big like softie, and she's the mum that tries to adopt everyone. Like, bro, it's like we could be in this setting and she would just be like, Keegs, like, you know, she's like, when are you coming over for like a barbecue? Like, Keegs lives in Sydney now, mum. No, we got to do that. And then, like, before you know it, she'll like ring me one day and there's fucking like 43 of the boys that have got to come around to her place for a barbecue. And
I love that.
All she does is think about it. She's like, they need to do it. But they're sick, mate. I think for me, it'll always be my mum and dad, just seeing that, and then just like, I am where I am because of them. So, I had like, I think like he wouldn't even know like the like little mindsets for footy thing, like Crowy and that was so cool because that just helped me as a person, like embrace me a bit more, which was sick. And then like from a footy perspective, like I was like Sam Burgess was my favourite player. So like that was that. But like at the end of the day, like I'll never be able to like top what my parents did for me ever. So yeah, I think they'll always be the OGs.
Bro, very cool. Big couple of years coming up. What's plans? What are you looking forward to?
I don't know. It's like keep hanging out with mates. Watch you guys do this.
Yeah.
Hopefully, maybe you should turn this into like, oh mate, actually I don't even want to imagine what, like we always talk about just spitballing with the boys that we're going to end up doing. And it's like somehow we always make it out so that we end up in the same, like in the same workplace or environment. You know,
we'll have a collaborative working
like
space together.
Like, legit. I was just thinking that in my head. I was like, what do I do? Like, if I end up doing something, like, can you make it work? But I don't know. I just there's some pretty big goals I want to like try and tick in footy and that sort of stuff. But mate, I got no idea. Like people always talk about your post footy plan and that sort of stuff, and obviously studying physio. But like, there's part of me that doesn't even know if I want to like be a physio, and it's just kind of will be good to get under my back. But I'm just like, I think I'm just enjoying the bit of the ride at the moment. And, like I moved down the Goldie from Brizzy, and that was one of the best things
Best
ever.
thing you've ever done,
Bro,
brother.
legit, best thing I ever did, because, like, days off, like, you can get away from footy or, like, just, I don't know. There's life outside of rugby league, bro. That's, like, the biggest thing I learned. Like, I don't know. Whilst I'm still, like, got some goals I want to tick off there, I got no idea. Long story short, fuck, I don't even know.
I had a chat with Craig Hodges
Oh,
yesterday.
Hodjo,
For those who are listening, Hodjo was our under 20s coach of the Brisbane Broncos. He's one of my favorite coaches that I reckon I've had going through all teams. And I said to him, I was like, what was one of the biggest things? Like, why did you pick Paddy as a captain coming through? Like, obviously, I got to be captain when we were younger, and then you took over when I left. And I was like, what was the thing? Like, what stood out? And he's like, well, obviously, like, natural ability, that's fine. But he's obviously super hardworking. But the biggest thing was that you came in with, like, a really mature head at a young age, and that you just had respect for the boys. And he said, we don't like to have favorites. And he said a lot of the actual other coaches would tease him because he had favorites, and you're one of them. And he's pretty much just said, like, look, guys like Paddy and guys like who are similar, a bit like yourself, they'll do well after footy because, you know, they're hardworking and they've got those traits, and you can see those traits because they've obviously been around for a long time. They can see them kick after footy, and you're obviously very narrow focus in what you're doing now with footy, and that's probably why you're having so much success. But imagine what that's going to look like when you finish footy and you find what you really want to do. So that's, mate, like I said, I wrote you a really beautiful card, my brother, that I'll give you afterwards.
Me?
But yeah, but what it
Bro, you'll make me cry.
Yeah, no, but what it means is, like, I'm, like, obviously so proud of what you're doing in footy, and I'm really proud to call you a mate because you're obviously doing good things on the football field, but you're also, like, such a great person off the field. And I think I'm really excited to see what the next chapter is going to look like for you. And obviously, you know, you're only fucking 25, like, you still got a long time to go, but that's the stuff that excites me. It's like what you're going to do after footy. So, mate, I'm really pumped.
Thanks, man. You just reminded me, like, the best thing I ever did was, like, this exercise they got us to do in Origin. This was like exercise. You do everything because you're just the best bloke ever.
Shut your mouth.
Most genuine person, swear to God. But bro, like, I remember when I debuted for Origin, Huey Van Cuylenberg from, like, the Resistance Project, it's like gave us a thing. He's like, just write out of nowhere, like, a letter to, like, I don't know if people listening will do this ever, but, like, if you just an, like, appreciation letter, or, like, not a letter, he said text, and just send it to that person out of nowhere. So on, like, game day, like, that's what I did. And
Really?
like and like the feeling that, like, you feel something about someone, then, like, you've never ever told them in your life, and then you actually are grateful and appreciative for them. The feeling you get back when you, like, send that off, and, like, they just cop it out of nowhere, and, like, what the hell? And it might be even someone that, like,
Who'd you message?
me.
Yeah.
I think I messaged when I was younger, all I wanted to be was, like, my cousin. Like, he was he was in, like, the Bronx little systems, but, like, bro, like, you say favorite player in there, and I'm like, yeah, but, like, I copied him, everything he did. He came to Brazil and lived with us. So, like, I copied, like, everything he did. I was just like, I want to do this, you want to do that, I'm going to dress like this, I'm going to do that. Like,
Okay.
bro, I had a rat's tail. Like,
What?
that's why everyone laughs at me. Like, you're just like this fucking big spinner. Like, a rat's tail, but went to a private school and
Yeah.
got to, like, cut off. But, like, because he had one, obviously. But yeah, I just want to throw that in, bro. That was the best thing I actually ever did, because every Origin game I've played from now, I've, like, picked a new person and, like, sent them, like, some's been, like, mum and dad, or, like, past friends, ex-girlfriends.
Thank you so much for jumping on. I know, mate, we're taking the podcast virginity. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for breaking down the barriers and stigmas of mental health, mate. I appreciate you a lot for coming on. I got a lot of love for you. I know that you've got a lot of love for your mate. So, mate, thanks a lot. I'm excited to see what the next couple of years look like for you, brother.
Appreciate you, man. Hopefully, a couple of years I'll somehow be finding my way into whatever you're doing. Should be the boys at lunch again. But yeah, appreciate you, bro.
Thank you, brother.